So what I've got at the moment is the carcass, the main carcass for this, and I have it all dovetailed together, and this will be the front. I had all that marked off, so that was my reference face off of the front here. And what I'm going to do next is cut a rabbet on the back side here. And the reason why is I have a piece of cherry plywood, 1/4 inch thick cherry plywood, and I'll be using that as the back piece that I'll have as the background for the shelving thing. And what I want to do is cut that rabbet instead of running a groove all the way around the inside. I did leave enough room when I was cutting the dovetails for these side pieces for the groove to not interfere with the tails. However, in doing so, they would end up right in the middle of the pin, or the half pin rather, and I don't really want to do that since this is the side and it's more likely to be seen. I didn't want to have a hole here, like if I were to do it on my router table or whatever, or just plow the groove with a Stanley 45 or 46, or 55, whatever, a plow plane. And so as a result of that, instead of trying to do a stopped groove, I'm just going to do a rabbet all the way around on the inside, on the back. And I could still do the groove and just do it stopped, use my router plane and all that kind of stuff. But the reason I didn't want to is because that takes an extra 1/4 inch, which isn't the end of the world. But I just thought it'd be a little bit easier, and I'd rather have a little bit more space. I mean, just even a 1/4 inch is a 1/4 inch. So that's kind of why. And I will go ahead and take a hand plane. There's a couple of these boards that weren't exactly the same width, and so I just have a little bit of planing to do to get all these corners to match perfect, and then I will get started on cutting the rabbet for the back. So let's get that going. Alright, that's all planed flush. So the next thing that I'm going to do is take my marking gauge and then mark out a line that's 1/4 inch down from this back side. Okay, and the other thing that I did is, yeah, I don't know if you saw, but I marked out the lengths, and that's how long these pin boards are, or tail boards are. And what I'm going to do is actually go just beyond by 1/4 of an inch so that I can mark where I need to actually stop for these, since they need to extend a little bit further. Alright, so I've got my first tail board here in the workbench, and what I'm going to be using is my Stanley number 46, and I've actually already pretty much set up the iron and all that kind of stuff, so it should be good to go there. I just have to adjust the fence, which is just a matter of wiggling it to the right position, and I'm not going to worry too much if I'm not like perfectly on my lines, and the reason for that is that I have a shoulder plane that I'll probably end up coming back with, just so I can clean it up to get it perfectly down to the line. So once I have this all set up, I already set up the depth stop, so that should be more than sufficient. I'll just drop it a hair. There we go. So now all I have to do is use this and slowly work my way back. And there we go. So that's actually pretty close to on my mark, but I'm going to go ahead and clean this up anyway with the shoulder plane just to get it down perfectly to my line. Alright, so what I've got set up is I've got the tailboard in the vise, and there's some obvious problems. I can't use the plow plane because I really can't stop there and then pull all the way back to here and then go back and forth. So that's kind of why I decided to do it with hand tools instead of trying to use my router. I mean, I could have easily set up the router table, you know, made the rabbet with a rabbiting bit and then just stopped here and then taken the piece off the fence, blah blah blah. But I'm trying to make it with hand tools, so that's what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do is just chisel all along here and then come back, clean it out, chisel back, basically like chopping a mortise, except this mortise doesn't have a side, so now it's just a stopped rabbet, so it'll stop here and then it'll stop back here. So let's get that part of it done. And then I just went ahead and kind of chopped some of that out, so it gets down there pretty quick. I mean, I'm only maybe 3/4 of an inch down the way and I'm already pretty much down to depth. So now I just have to do that all the way down, making sure that I keep it to a consistent depth and don't go past my line. So time to just hammer it out. And then before I go ahead and actually finish, I'm just going to kind of show you the technique that I'll be using. And just so that I can get this back pretty much as perfect as I can, I kind of go in my marking gauge line with a wider chisel and I just sort of pare down. So that's what I'm doing here. And just kind of rough this in a little bit more. Try and get off some of the bigger high spots. Just to kind of make life a little bit easier for me here. Alright, and then I will take the router plane and basically work this in there to get a consistent depth on all of these. So I just basically work this across. And so now when I'm doing this, I have this hand is pushing straight down pretty much as its only job. And then I steer with my left hand. That is to say I kind of, you know, push, pull if I have to do a little bit of wiggling like that instead. But this right hand in this case is pushing straight down, and that is so that I ensure that the bottom of this groove that or rabbit that I'm making with this router plane is parallel to this face. And that's important because if it's not, then it's not going to quite line up as nicely as you might hope. So I have the top pin board done now. I still have to do the rabbit for the bottom pin board, but this just kind of gets you an idea of what I'm going after here. So the rabbits that I cut on the tail boards made up perfectly with the rabbits, or stopped rabbits I guess, that I made on this tail board. So as you can see, that gives me a recess with nice squared off corners, and there's no hole over here on the end. So that is basically what I am after, and I just have to finish up the other one, and then that portion is done. Alright, well, I got the other pin board on and I got the rabbit done for that. So now I have the rabbit all the way around the top and the bottom and both sides. So now I am going to cut my piece of plywood to make a back panel for this.